podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Ed, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. As you can see, I'm fully committed and invested to the concept of talking about Manchester United today.
Oh, you love it.
I do.
You love it. And how do you rate United's performance yesterday at West Ham?
So, I mean, he's got to go, right? He's just got to go because this isn't getting any better.
No, it's toxic now. It's got to the point where, I mean, look, you can blame the players for underperforming yesterday. You can blame the referee, which is what José Mourinho did. I think I was stretching it somewhat. But you cannot blame anyone else but José Mourinho for the absolute insanity of that team selection and the tactics he deployed and the substitutions he made. It's all on him, all on him.
Yeah, I mean, you know, sometimes you can. I definitely think we've done this over the last few years of assigning too much responsibility to the manager and not enough responsibility to the players. But the referee didn't put Scott McTominay as part of a back three, and then switch it up so it was just him and Smalling at centre back. I mean, you know, remember when Guardiola left 6 players on the substitute bench and it felt like it was a bit of a dig at the board? Harry Redknapp did that once as well, I think.
Yeah.
But never has there been a stupid, a more self-destructive dig at the board than playing Scott McTominay at centre-back.
Oh, just mental. And of course he praised McTominay afterwards, but that was very Trumpian of him. It was just insanity. I mean, you've got £30 million defender, Eric Bailly, who's not perfect, but actually was United's best defender last season, and I think when he was fit. And he's now fit and he's not playing. And you got Victor Lindelof, who's pulled off during the game, who's been Mourinho's go-to guy, and who is not perfect either by any stretch, but is improving. And then you got Smalling, Jones, and Rojo were all fit, right? So full complement of fit first-team defenders. And Axel Tuanzebe, who's a very talented young player, also available.
Isn't he on loan somewhere?
I don't think so. Is he?
I'm pretty sure he went on loan again.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm lying about that. But he's got 5 full-time defenders, all fit and available to play. And McTominay plays in a back three. Back three that United don't play very often. And when they do play, it's a back 5. And it was definitely a back 5 at West Ham. Because United were on the back foot from the get-go. And then McTominay, who did okay on the ball, but he's definitely not a natural defender. And West Ham's third goal clearly shows that. I mean, go look at the replay. I mean, he is in the wrong position completely, leaves like a 30-yard gap. And you know, it was a comedy goal to concede, but entirely down to Jose. I don't blame McTominay for that.
No.
He's a 20-year-old central midfielder and one who's done okay at United, but only made 8 starts in the Premier League. And he shouldn't have been in that position ever.
The first goal is also McTominay plays a huge role in that as well. And this is not bashing the kid. The kid shouldn't be anywhere near this position. But even though it was probably offside, it would have been a trivially easy decision for the linesman to flag it as offside if McTominay had been in line with the rest of the defence. He's half a yard behind the rest of the defence in the offside line. So, you know, that's. I mean, that's right at the beginning of the game, probably the first time I don't know if he ever played centre-back for the youth team, but he definitely hasn't played centre-back for the senior team. So his first ever start at centre-back, a few minutes in, and he's out of position when the team's playing a kind of offside trap. You know, that's the manager. But never mind the manager's absolutely ridiculous decision-making. It's the toxicity. It's out of control. Mm-hmm. It doesn't come back from here. It doesn't, you don't get to this point with, like, there were stories today about that him having a massive go at Sanchez in front of the whole dressing room, doing all the papers. I've only half seen this, but there's some quote yesterday where he's saying, everyone's saying Martial, Martial, Martial. Well, he didn't make any difference, did he? When actually, I was out for the first half because I could not be bothered. And due to various live stuff, I didn't have time to do some of the things I need. So I only listened to the first half on the radio. But in the second half, Martial's like skinning players for fun. That move that he pulled off on the touchline was better than anything Alexis Sanchez has done for United so far that wasn't against Manchester City, and then he just took Martial off and then slagged him off again, kind of providing the conditions for the players he doesn't like to fail. It's got to the point where there is no point keeping him in the job at this point.
Oh, no, none at all. None at all. I mean, I think the only pushback that we're now seeing is twofold. Well, it's not totally Jose's fault. Look at the board. Look at the out-of-date structure at United. And that's all true, right? Board who refused to buy the players that the manager wanted this summer, and a CEO who thinks he's a director of football, which is a problem, although, of course, there's been a fair bit of money spent in previous summers. And Jose, having come second last season, got a £50 million central midfielder this summer. Problem structurally in United, and a lot of money wasted in the years since Ferguson retired on players who weren't good enough or didn't fit, or trophy signings. Absolutely. Everyone knows that there's a failure of structure. Attitude of some of the players, it clearly is now translating onto the pitch, although I think Jose Mourinho's decision to slash and burn this summer has translated it all the way into the dressing room. We see factions coming out. The war that Jose Mourinho started with Paul Pogba has affected the dressing room as well, right? So there's a whole bunch of other factors. But then there's the manager, right? So control for everything else. Has Jose Mourinho got to the point where he's adding or taking away from United's performance right now? And my argument would be now that there is nothing that could be worse than sacking Jose Mourinho, right? Nothing. I mean, like than keeping him. Sorry, right? You fire him now, and it doesn't get worse. It just can't. It will be a weight off many players' shoulders. It would probably free up Paul Pogba to actually, give a about things, or more of about things, for the rest of his time at United, the 6 months or so that he might have left. It'd liberate the rest of the squad, the younger players who there's a massive cloud over, and players such as Anthony Martial and now Alexis Sanchez have fallen out with the manager. So I just can't see anything bad coming. The only pushback you can really have now is, oh, well, who would replace him? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Of course, you want to get the right long-term solution in. But right now, you can give it to Giggsy and it'd be fine.
Yeah, give it to Michael Carrick till the end of the season. The thing about the argument that the problems aren't just Mourinho at the club is that anyone who thinks that the problems at Man United are just Mourinho is obviously silly. But that doesn't mean that Mourinho isn't a problem. And there are some of the problems at United that you can't do anything about, and he's one of the ones that you can do something about. And I think this is a point that you've made to me time and again, and it's that if there are big structural problems, you need someone who's going to do the best with what he's got. And Mourinho is making United less than the sum of their parts by a considerable margin. And the sum of their parts isn't amazing. So, listen, he won 2 trophies in his first season in charge. And that was a massive achievement. And it had an awful lot to do with the arrival of Zlatan Ibrahimovic, I think, and the kind of boost that gave to the club, and the sheer number of goals he scored, and the kind of general, the certainty of presence that he provided. In the second season, we finished second, but never, and there is some measure of that, which is a significant achievement. The finishing second is by far the best league position since Fergie went. It's something that you said, I don't know if it was at the end of last season, that no other manager probably could have got United to that position so quickly, or very few managers could have got United back to that position so quickly. But look at the underlying data about where we finished last season. You were talking about, you said this last week, but United's XG conceded was something like 16 more than the goals they conceded, and a huge amount of. I mean, we saw David De Gea was absolutely extraordinary for, especially like the second half of last season. So that second finish was not all that. It really wasn't all that. It wasn't like we were brilliant. We had a degree of efficiency, and that's basically it. But we looked pretty calamitous defensively for most of last season, even though in the end our defensive numbers were great in terms of goals conceded. But we looked calamitous for loads of it. And this season, we've just looked calamitous all the way through this. Nothing positive's changed. It's just that the toxicity has grown and grown and grown. And it is time. Like, if the board had anything about them, if Woodward had anything about him, he'd be sacked this week, because acting quickly here is much more. Because this is Mourinho we're talking about. This isn't like a knee-jerk reaction to a few results. This is José Mourinho conforming to type 100%.
Sure.
We're in the third season. It does not get better from here.
No, it doesn't. United have already lost 3 of 7 games, and as it stands, I wouldn't be surprised if we'd lost 6 or 7 by the time it gets to Christmas. I'm not going to be surprised if United lose to Valencia in the week at all. And we've got some tough games coming up. Playing Chelsea and City before the end of November. Of course, there are massive problems now, and the toxicity stems from the summer. Mourinho's way of managing is to create conflict, right? With that tension, he thinks he creates performances. And it's true throughout his career, he has, of course, created outstanding performances. But when it goes wrong, which is right now, it's going wrong, he's burning all his relationships, and he doesn't have any left. So I'm going to bet there aren't too many within that dressing room who'd run through a wall for José Mourinho right now. But I don't expect the club to sack him for 2 reasons. One, they're pretty conservative. Actually, there haven't been knee-jerk reactions. So the sacking of Van Gaal was planned for some time, clearly. And they just triggered it on the day the season finished. Well, the minutes the season finished, as he was walking up the steps. Moyes, they sacked him the day that United couldn't make 4th place, or very soon after. So I don't expect them to pull the trigger very quickly, but it would be a good decision to do so. And that's not, again, for those who want to shout at me on Twitter, that's not because Mourinho is solely at fault. It's just it can't get better from here with Mourinho in charge. They're pretty conservative and pretty slow moving, the United hierarchy. So I don't expect them to do it. And then the second reason is just I'm quite sure that Mourinho has a clause in his contract that allows them, that new 5-year contract he signed, and he's a year into it, that allows them to get rid of him if United don't make the Champions League. And right now that's looking like a long shot, isn't it? 7 games into the season. And that will save them about £20 million.
Wasn't the contract was a small extension on his existing contract, wasn't it? It wasn't like it was an
extra 2 years.
Right, okay. Yeah. An extra 2 years, okay. Right. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, the kind of chump change of £20 million for United. Like, I get if you're running a business and you can save £20 million, you probably do. But the cost of that £20 million could be absolutely catastrophic. Because there's only so many times Woodward can kind of like sidle up to Paul Pogba and go, listen, don't worry, we're getting rid of him. As soon as your team that you play for is mathematically unable to be in the Champions League next season, we'll get rid of him. So don't worry, everything's fine. Like, it's not a good message, is it? And it's not just Pogba, because obviously there's loads of people that just hate Pogba now, United fans. And that's very upsetting, and I would argue slightly ridiculous, even though he's not doing himself any favours. Loads of stories today in all the papers that, this comes from the Daily Record, which means it comes from Castles, and that's that Pogba is prepared to take this as far as it goes. Pogba's prepared to refuse to play for Mourinho. I mean, the fact that he played Pogba yesterday was kind of significant. But the fact that he took him off after 60
Took him off for
minutes-
Fred. Yeah. I mean, that was very pointed. United desperately needing goals, and they take off the most creative player. I mean, Pogba had 3 shots yesterday. He didn't actually create any chances or anything like that. But I thought the one moment that summed up Pogba's time in the team yesterday, he got the ball down the left-hand side and he's looking up, looking for a pass, ends up taking on his man and goes to take on second man. He's like knocked out for a throw, and he just like throws his arm up Cristiano Ronaldo style in frustration that it's just static in front of him.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the team yesterday, and there were 7 key passes, only 1 by an attacking player. The other 3 were from the other 6, were from Young and from Shaw. Right, the crosses coming in. United created almost nothing. Lukaku, as we talked about last week, was completely out of form. I mean, when he's out of form, he doesn't move, and he didn't move. Martial got the ball and ran with it, but I'm not sure he had his best game, which is a shame because, of course, we're both big fans of Anthony Martial. Pogba, frustrated with everyone around him. Fellaini and Matic were there just to try and break things up. It's just kind of... Anyway.
I was just looking up United's XG. Brilliant goal from Marcus Rashford. What a fin! One of those goals that would be like one of the great lost goals that no one ever thinks about because it was in such an abysmal game. But absolutely astonishing piece of skill, really, to be able to do that kind of little flick. I mean, came out of nothing, of course. Yeah, corner.
But I mean, like that talent. Just an aside before you make your point. He's hardly ever starting games in his right position. This is just symptomatic of José Mourinho. He bitched and moaned, got the player he wanted in Alexis Sanchez, who's been absolute dog for United, a player earning whatever he's earning, right? Just been awful. And not only has he been awful, but he's burned 2 other players at the same time, and this is the kind of, oh no, it's not all Mourinho's fault. This is, one of the things that destroys that argument, 3 players into less than 1 player.
Yeah.
And then Mourinho has done that.
So the United's XG, I looked it up and I couldn't believe how high it was. It's like 0.87, not bad. But 0.45 of that, so more than half of the XG that United created came from that one Marouane Fellaini header that was well saved. That's the absolute state of United at the moment. And, so the game itself, I mean, catastrophic defending. Just and who among us was surprised when so everyone looks at the team sheet and is like, is McTominay playing on the right of a 4-2-3-1? That looked like it could possibly be what was happening. Or is Matic going to be playing as part of a back 5? You got McTominay, Fellaini and Pogba. But even so, I mean, how Scott McTominay, there's no reason McTominay should be in that starting 11 in any position, but McTominay is the official designated point maker of José Mourinho. He played him against Sevilla when he wanted to make him a point. He gave him the Player of the Year award when he wanted to make a point. And he played him yesterday when he wanted to make a point. And the point he made was stupid and didn't need making, and it cost United dearly. And Mourinho will do that to make a point.
Yeah, United conceded 3 goals yesterday. I can't get my numbers right today. 3 goals yesterday, playing a back 6 basically, because Matic was so deep.
Yeah,
And Mourinho clearly doesn't trust his defenders, because when he doesn't trust his defenders, he goes even more conservative. But it just gave all the momentum from West Ham from the kickoff, right? From the kickoff, it looked like it was no surprise when United conceded 5 minutes in. It was like they were trying to hold a 1-0 lead in the Champions League final in the last 5 minutes, right? That's how they started the game. It was insane, alongside this absolute mental system that he came out. It's just, but that's what Mourinho does when he doesn't trust his players. But he's not helping them. He's chopping and changing the system constantly. 2 years in, more than 2 years in now. He was appointed in May 2016. So it's almost 2.5 years since he had plenty of time to think about what he was going to do with the squad leading up to it, because everyone knew he was getting the job.
Yeah.
We're so far and so deep into it. I cannot see any scenario possible in which we get better. And, as I said, I think the club won't fire him straight away. But if we lose 6 or 7 Premier League games by Christmas, I won't be surprised at all.
But the thing is, one of the things that's going to happen, this is what happened in the Van Gaal season, is everything looked like it was absolutely falling apart at the seams. But then they just rescued a few results here and there and prolonged it. And then, the FA Cup run was great. We won the FA Cup and it's nice for Louis and all that. And I was very delighted by that. But, you said you wouldn't be surprised if we lose to Valencia. Well, I don't think anyone would they? But I also wouldn't be surprised if we beat Valencia. And then everything starts to change in the terms of the narrative. But actually, nothing's actually changed. You mentioned the chopping and changing. And before the West Ham game, I said last week, is he going to do the thing that he does when it's starting to go wrong, which is tweak the system and get a result? But instead, he tweaked the system and it was a total disaster. We're waiting for the Mourinho masterclasses. This is the opposite of a Mourinho masterclass. This is him changing it to deal with a specific threat, but in an absolutely sort of broken way. And the origin of all his decision making is the toxicity and the ego. He used Martial in the post-match to make a point about him dropping Sanchez, when actually he dropped Sanchez because Sanchez has been rubbish. And Sanchez has been rubbish. He should be dropped. He was not even in the squad. But the thing is, he's not in the squad because he's rubbish. He's not in the squad because something's gone on behind the scenes. Because Mourinho doesn't drop Alexis Sanchez for being rubbish. We know that,
No, that's right. That's right. Just another example of Mourinho, watching Old Trafford burn.
Yeah. Was Jesse Lingard even in the squad yesterday? I don't think he was. I don't think he was on the bench.
I don't remember.
But I also don't understand.
No, he wasn't. So Rashford, Mata, Fred, Darmian, Herrera, Lee Grant and Eric Bailly.
So I also don't really understand what Ashley Young's doing at right back in that game. Is Valencia injured, or is he fallen out with the manager too? Maybe he's injured. I don't know. I
wasn't in the squad, so maybe.
But Dalot had played really well. But it's not like an absolutely terrible decision to play Young instead of Dalot, given the kind of unknown quantity. But it's not the decision I would have made. Not that matters, but you know what I mean. It's just everywhere's a mess. Midfield's a complete mess. Totally.
And on the West Ham side of things, Nautovic is looking like the forward that Mourinho wanted. Had a very good game, come back from knee injury. He looks way more mobile than he did at Stoke. Anyway, he looks like a very intelligent forward yesterday. And Felipe Anderson seems to be warming up to the English game. Very, very, very talented player, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yarmolenko, just so direct. They've had a good summer. We talked about this before, didn't we? They've got some good players there, I think. I don't know that they have a natural centre forward. I'm not sure Arnautovic is a natural centre forward, but he's done pretty well there. And of course, we talked about Rice last week. A centre back playing in centre midfield, looking incredibly composed. We had a centre midfielder playing at centre back, not looking very composed.
Yeah, exactly. This is the current state of play. Listen, I just want to get this point on the record again. This is not Scott McTominay's fault. He couldn't have been asked to do better than he did. It was just ridiculous to try and ask him to do what he did. The only positive from that game was the Rashford goal and the kind of sense that we might be building towards something from that goal. But it was immediately sacrificed into a negative by one of the most hilariously terrible pieces of defending you'll ever see in all of your life for West Ham's third. And what could have summed up United's false dawn current situation more than us getting back in the game and then immediately surrendering any momentum? That's just perfect encapsulation of where United are at right now.
I feel I have run out of invective to talk about. Just just infuriating. I cannot. It blows my mind how insane yesterday was, and the petty, childish points that Mourinho is making. And he's making them in team selection. Playing Scott McTominay at the back, that's not sensible in anyone's coaching manual. That's not good coaching. That is making a point to Ed Woodward, who's sitting in the stands with Patrice Evra. I'd give it to Patrice Evra for the season rather than Mourinho, to be honest. That was the point he was making. He made the point again with his substitutions, with Pogba, but also pulling off Lindelof. And then he made the point again in the post-match when he praised Diop at West Ham, saying, "Oh, you've got to really look at their scouting staff there. They've bought a monster, Just child he is. And he's a child who's failing to get results, which at the end is what apparently all that matters with Mourinho, And you take everything with Mourinho and the flip side of all the drama and the ego and the narcissism and the pettiness and the destruction of the dressing room that always happens, we always predicted. And the flip side of that has to be results. And if he's not getting it, what's the point?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, well, even though we're recording this on a Sunday morning, which is not when we normally record podcasts, Ed's put out the call for Twitter questions. Have we received any? I know we had 56 in the 20 minutes that you did last week. I suspect it's fewer this week.
We've got a few.
Okay.
We've got a few. So at Full-Time Devils says, you might have heard of them.
Yeah. Familiar with their work?
One for Paul. # remove the curse.
No. The bothering Michael Owen has to stop. So I said on a Full-Time Devils episode that Michael Owen had cursed the number 7 shirt at Manchester United. And on a Red Devils on Reddit, on the Red Devils thread this week, somebody pointed out that number 7s at United have scored 13 league goals since Cristiano Ronaldo left. I don't think abusing Michael Owen on Twitter is going to do the job, though. And also, Michael Owen is the number 7 who has scored the most league goals since Cristiano Ronaldo left.
Please. We should just retire it, shouldn't we? Give it to OG.
OG must have scored a lot more than...
I'm pretty sure, yeah. Mikael Osterdahl says, why do we play Lindelof and Smalling at centre-back when Herrera and Fred were available? Good point, well made, Mikael. I don't think we need to answer that one. Brad Graham with Brad on here on Twitter with a more sensible question. Most realistic outcome for this season now is... Give me a scenario, Paul. What do you think the most realistic outcome is?
Well, we've got 2 options, haven't we? 3. We've got the Van Gaal protocol, where we are close enough to getting 4th that they can't sack the manager because they could save so much money if only he would finish 5th. And it's so tantalisingly close. So we've got that. We've got the Moyes scenario where it all goes catastrophically wrong and we're out of Europe by, February. And then we've got a newly invented Mourinho scenario, which is where Ed Woodward finally finds it in his tiny little feeble heart to actually make a decision for the good of the football club rather than the good of the financial club. And sacks Mourinho within the next couple of weeks and we get another...
There's one more scenario. This is the Jose scenario that he wants, which is United spend an absolute ton of money in January on some centre-backs, say, Alderweireld, because Alderweireld's going to be available for 25 million in June, so they dangle 40 million in front of Spurs' eyes, and they take it and buy that and buy another striker, which Mourinho wants, and buy a wide midfielder, and everything's sunny and rosy, and United finish comfortably in the top 4 and get to the quarterfinals of the Champions League and win a cup.
But that's never going to happen because there's absolutely no way the board are going to back Mourinho with big money, and they shouldn't. you shouldn't give a child what they want when they throw a tantrum. This is not good management. It's not good parenting.
Oh yeah, but it's tempting. It's not good parenting, but believe me, as a parent, it's sometimes very tempting just to let the noise go away.
Yes, absolutely. But I completely agree with the people that say the board were ridiculous for not backing Mourinho in the summer. But the reason being, you either have to back him or get rid of him. I mean, I'm broken record territory here. I say this every week, but you have to do one or the other, and they've done neither. And they're not going to, I think, of the two options, like really rally behind Mourinho in January or sack him soon. And by soon, I mean before the end of the season. Obviously, that's going to happen.
At Matt Mitchell 3 says, how do you fix the problem above the manager? I think this comes to some of the discussion we were having earlier. I mean, there were a few reports earlier in the season that United were looking for a director of football. Now, that may say that they've finally realised that the club's structure is old-fashioned and they need to revamp that piece, certainly in terms of recruitment. I mean, there was a follow-up that said United were probably looking for a technical director more than a director of football, which might suggest it's a more limited scope role. I kind of feel this might be Turkey's voting for Christmas. I'm not sure that Ed Woodward, having had a taste of power, really wants to reduce the scope of his role, which is what you'd be saying there, honestly, to have a proper director of football in place. Also reducing the scope of José Mourinho's role, which he won't like either, right? So that's a major decision. And that would take, I think, someone above Ed Woodward to make it. And I'm not sure the Glazer family have the wherewithal or the sense to do that. Though, of course, in American sports, it is very, very common to have the recruitment department and the general manager and the coach being completely different people outside of the owner. So that kind of structure that we're talking about would be... Scouting and the sort of transfer market doesn't exist in American sports, any of them. Even MLS, where everyone's centrally contracted. So, but maybe they've got it after 10 years and not bothering to come to Old Trafford very often.
So I could not agree with you more about Woodward's reticence to reduce his scope. Everything that we know about Ed Woodward tells us that there's nothing, I think the happiest moments in Ed Woodward's professional life have been when there were all those memes of him being a baller and spending a load of money in that first Van Gaal summer. Ed Woodward absolutely loved that. From everything we've heard behind the scenes, he just loves that vision of himself. So I think you're right about the Turkeys voting for Christmas thing. I think the fact that it would undermine Mourinho literally doesn't matter anymore, because I think Mourinho's finished at United. You said it in the season preview episode. He's a dead man walking at United. This has been that last summer made it utterly clear that Mourinho is finished at United. So what's happening now just doesn't matter in the long term. So I don't think that's an impediment to bringing in a director of football. But I completely even the briefing changing from director of football to technical director. It's almost like Woodward's kind of briefing. I'm going to bring in a director of football because, there's going to be more than just Jose making this decisions here. And then suddenly realised, oh no, wait a minute, that means I won't get to have my good fun times. And the real answer, of course, of how you actually fix the problem is you change the ownership, and that's just not going to happen. So, this is always going to be a risk. Look at Arsenal. So many of everyone blaming Wenger for Arsenal's problems, and he was a disgrace by the end and should have gone a long time ago. But Arsenal's problems are endemic and structural, and Wenger was fighting an uphill battle against a lot of those.
Right.
But what do we do? Because if you look at the top six, Arsenal are owned by a businessman that doesn't, an American businessman that doesn't care about success, really. So are we. Chelsea are owned by someone whose money was very obviously
stolen from the Russian people, and is now an Israeli citizen randomly, and is looking to sell the club. And
City are a PR outlet for a bunch of human rights abusers. That leaves Liverpool, who are owned by FSG, who seem to be actually an ownership who are interested in success as well as finance, so.
Yeah. I mean, at United's current share price and market cap, and given the premium you want for a purchase, it'd be about a £5 billion purchase, I think, which would be a very good return for the Glazers on not spending very much of their own money. If you're a Patreon backer, we had a long discussion about that on last week's backers episode.
Yeah.
So 5 billion is an awful lot. It's not really an individual billionaire that's going to shell out that, I don't think. It could be a sports group or a conglomerate, or it could be some kind of kleptocratic wealth somewhere, so China or Russia or the Middle East. None of those sound particularly good. So
No.
I think, and the Glazers have consistently said they're in it for the long term. And maybe they think we've not hit peak value yet, although I think it may be coming soon. We'll see after the next round of contracts, but that's contract negotiations, but that's about 3 years' time. So I don't imagine there's any real change there. I don't think they're pushing Ed Woodward to make any structural change. United don't make radical changes. They tinker at the edges.
Yeah.
We may get a technical director at some point coming up. The briefing was that they wanted him or her, I assume him, in before Christmas. That may happen, but I think it will be a fairly limited scoped role. Looking at recruitment policy, not a director of football that has a wider scope to think about the direction of the football side of the club. And Mourinho's going to remain dead man walking. I think we'll lose 6 or 7 games before Christmas, and then it's just how conservative they want to be before they get rid of him. Anyway, that's an awful long rant, isn't it? So. @_Taylor Ben says, in how many games have we played decent, entertaining football since Sir Alex Ferguson left? That little run of Spurs Liverpool City in LVG's first season are the only games I can think of.
Oh, those games, man. Those games were so
good. The good old days. The good old days.
We played some good stuff in Mourinho's first season. Pogba Ibrahimovic connection, pretty exciting. Actually, a load of those games where we ended up drawing 0-0 or drawing 1-1, we played really lovely football, like loads of really exciting attacking football. There's even a spell. Like sort of just before Sanchez came in, when Martial and Rashford, like the beginning of last season, when we won 4-0 for 10 games in a row or whatever it was. Like there's been patches of really entertaining football. Mkhitaryan making 5 assists in 3 games or whatever it was, and Martial scoring off the bench every 5 minutes. That was really exciting and entertaining. So there's been spells.
Yeah, God, all our questions are about the same thing, as you can imagine. @Yus Raja on Twitter says, when will fans start doing something, i.e. putting pressure on the Glazer ownership about the real issues of the club, talking about Jose and Woodward, addresses a symptom and not the disease, being owned by the same institutions that gave the world the worst financial crisis in history. I'm not sure the Glazers were actually part of that, although, they are subprime commercial real estate owners, of course. So it's a global macroeconomic problem, not a Jose problem, I think he's saying there.
Well, listen, when you say the fans, if you're talking about a global socialist revolution, then listen, we can have a conversation. But no, there are 2 reasons why fans don't do anything. One of them is because the issues are complex and nuanced, and football does not lend itself to that, which is completely fair enough. That's not what people are in football for. Football is a kind of escape from the complexities of the real world. So it's understandable that you're not getting like organised, mobilised movements. And actually, you did. FC United exists. Like FC United, that's what FC United is. It is a response to the Glazer ownership, a way of doing things differently, a different experience, and they've had their own problems for sure, but they exist. The other problem is you actually can't do anything. This is the thing. Fans have very limited ability to bring about change. Ed was just saying that we're talking about 5 billion worth of ownership. Fans putting pressure on the Glazers is meaningless unless we're really talking about a truly globalized, coordinated campaign to boycott sponsors and all this kind of stuff. And that they're just, not only is that not going to happen. I'm also not sure it should happen, because I think if you're going to invest that kind of level of organisational energy into something, we should probably be talking about like plastic in the ocean or global warming, or, you know, things that are genuinely actually more important than United being rubbish. Because it would take change on that kind of scale to make a difference here. We're talking about millions of people around the world.
Yeah, true. Economics rant. Brought to you by Jeremy Corbyn.
Listen, right? I didn't say that. I mean, I do
That's
think
for another podcast.
do think we should renationalise the railways, but that's a different conversation.
It's a very different conversation. Of course, in the most capitalist country on earth, America, many of the railways are actually nationalised. But
the sports are run like socialist cooperatives as well.
They really are, which we brought up earlier. Yeah, centralised contracts in the MLS, and a draft system in most American sports that tries to equalise the top and the bottom. Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about nicer things. Every other question we've got is almost exactly the same. When will Mourinho go? Whose fault is it? Can we just get rid of Woodward and Mourinho and Pogba all at the same time? I actually don't think Pogba's the problem, although he is a very significant symptom right at the moment. Laurent Blanc's at the end of the season says...
No, you said it couldn't get worse. Listen, well, let's avoid actual terrible sexists. We've just had one. Actually, Van Gaal's got a bit of a record in certain areas as well. But anyway, that's a different conversation.
There are various versions of WTF in non-family friendly ways. Been watching the Ryder Cup, says Simon Barlow. Actually, I haven't actually seen any of it because I was out and about and busy and working and whatever. So I'm not a huge golf fan, but it's normally a bit of drama, isn't it, the Ryder Cup? Maybe I'll catch the last 2 hours or something like that.
I have not watched any of the golf, no. Ever. I once regretted it. There was one time when the Ryder Cup was apparently really good on the one day and Europe came back and won at the end. Also, it's kind of a bit upsetting at the moment to watch Europe do things as a collective. It's a bit like pressing your nose up at the window and thinking about what might have been.
Well, will the British players or the English, Scottish and Welsh players be part of that? Of course, it's a tour versus a tour.
Yeah.
But Brexit should mean Brexit, shouldn't it, Paul?
Yeah, no more Eurovision.
Yeah, oh God, yeah, get rid of that crap. Anyway, let's move on. There are all the questions. We've got a game coming up.
Two. Why do Man United not realise they don't need to play any more games now? They could just forget it. It's stupid. We're playing Valencia. Valencia are rubbish, by the way.
Yeah, they've not had a great start to the season. They beat Real Sociedad yesterday.
Oh well, that's good because they needed a win. Bless them.
Yeah, drew with Celta Vigo, drew with Villarreal, lost to Juventus, drew with Real Betis. So it's been a slow start to the season for them. They're integrating a few new players, and they've got some very good players. I mean, Rodrigo is in the Spanish national side at the moment. Yeah. Batshuayi, we know from Chelsea, he's on loan. They finally got Gonzalo Guedes, a very long transfer saga over the summer, attacking left winger, very young player, exciting player. Jeffrey Kondogbia, we know, strong, powerful central midfielder. He'll super dynamic one as well. Who'll probably run rings around our central midfield. So they've got some good players. Just not had a good start to the season.
Cheryshev, after his wonderful World Cup, his completely legitimate wonderful World Cup. Eskil Garay, there's a name from transfer rumours past. And bizarrely...
The one that got away.
Yeah, one of the hundreds and hundreds that got away. And bizarrely, Francis Coquelin, although he's by no means a guaranteed starter for them. They have more than enough to stop United and do some damage. It's just they're not in a particularly good patch of form. And this game is at Old Trafford and... Oh, forget it. I was just about to try and muster some optimism. But like I said, if United, I wouldn't have been surprised if United had been much better than they were against West Ham, and I won't be surprised again if United somehow find some professional pride. But the thing is, that West Ham performance looked like Olympiacos away, didn't it? In fact, I had an email from our friend in Chicago who asked you last week if our friend Ryan, who asked you last week if this was Jose Mourinho's rock bottom week at Manchester United, and you said no, and he said, "Do you want to rethink that? Because I think we now have to say that it was rock bottom."
Yeah, draw at home to Wolves, lose to Derby County, lose to West Ham. Is that going to be followed up by a loss to Valencia? I mean, it's hard to say, and it'd be interesting to see what system Valencia played, because they have been playing 4-4-2 with Batshuayi and one other up front. Kevin Gamero played and scored at the weekend.
Yeah.
But it might not be him. So, that's pretty attacking. We've seen a few of their players before in La Liga and international tournaments. We know they're set up in a way that could play counter-attacking football, could do. Of course, United don't really play front foot football a lot of the time. Wouldn't surprise me if we flip this around and Valencia have more of the ball. That's the way Mourinho likes to play. But it's a few things make this interesting. Are United going to get on the front foot? Because it doesn't happen a lot, and definitely didn't happen against West Ham. And I'd be surprised if Mourinho reacts that way. But of course, generally speaking, United have a pretty good record in the Champions League at home.
Yeah. Although, most of that is from when we had the best manager in the history of football in charge, isn't it? So, to be fair, it has not been brilliant since he left. I mean, Moyes got through the group. Van Gaal didn't get through the group. Mourinho got through the group and then lost at the first opportunity. So, the thing about having a big long preview about this game is probably by the time most people are listening to this, it's just going to be happening or just have happened or whatever. So let's.
No. Tom's super efficient with his editing.
Even if he is,
he'll be out on the Monday.
If it's Sunday now. So anyway, even if it comes out, it's not that long. But then after that, we play Newcastle, and I think that is a really interesting game. And I think that is. Mourinho will be very. Imagine if he loses to Benitez and gets sacked. The actual ignominy for Jose Mourinho of that happening, given his long-time rivalry with Benitez. But actually, I think Benitez will do what he always does in these scenarios and just go ultra defensive, which I think is so dumb if he does that against United now. Because just try and match United, and you'll probably it would. You just don't need to part of the bus against us at all.
No, that's right. It's teams that get on the front foot that get the best results. Look at what West Ham and Wolves have done. And in fact, even Derby County, really did push United a lot. That's the way, because United just sink into the shell, and Mourinho's happy for that to happen. And our attacking players are not connected enough with midfield at the moment for us to be a threat on the counter-attack either. So it'd make a lot of sense for Newcastle to get on the front foot. But yeah, they probably won't, because, you've got Mourinho and Fat Mourinho against each other.
I would take Benitez at this point.
Oh, no, please.
The thing about it is I'm only half joking, because he's a much nicer man than Jose Mourinho, and that at the moment, I would settle for a fundamentally decent human being in charge of United. I don't understand the people that are Mourinho loyalists at this point, and I just don't understand it. I think I know why it's happening, but it just seems utterly baffling to me that anybody would choose to take that position.
Truthers.
Yeah,
they're in the cult. That's why. Look what happened at Chelsea when Stamford Bridge was in flames. Chelsea fans were, putting out banners saying "Get the rats out," including Eden Hazard, who they would, worship like a deity now.
Yeah.
So he manages to, with his rhetoric and the way he kind of circles the wagons, right? He manages to get fans on side all over the place. I don't. I mean, you know, I didn't detect any dissent within the travelling ranks at London Stadium yesterday. I won't. I can't imagine for a moment there'll be. Excuse me. I can't imagine for a moment there'll be any disquiet at Old Trafford on Tuesday. You know, he's gonna believe he's fully supported, and you know, it's going to take an awful lot for him to go.
Well, our friend Simon, a friend of the show, Simon Stevens, was in the away end, and he described it as there was audible anger in the away end, and end more disaffected than he's ever known it. So, I mean, that I'm sure that anger wasn't specifically directed at Mourinho, though. I'm sure there was a lot of anger towards the players, which seems to be a pretty convenient, you know, even our friend Scott, Republican Mancunio, tweeted, it's not Mourinho's fault that the players don't have any professional pride. And I actually really disagreed with that because, I mean, yeah, that doesn't mean that players shouldn't have more professional pride, but the system yesterday was an enormous part of the problem. Like, yesterday is a bad time. That argument, I think, could have been made a lot over the last few, like, especially this season so far. Brighton away, a brilliant example of that. But yesterday was so heavily about the team selection, the substitutions, the system, that it feels like this one is pretty straightforwardly on Mourinho.
Yeah, no, I agree with that one. And I think there is, of course, nuance, which is hard to get to in 280 characters.
Yeah.
So who at Newcastle is going to cause us problems? Joselu, Salomon Rondon, who's got about 3 goals in 10 years.
I mean, Solomon Rondon up against Victor Lindelof. I'm nervous. John Joe Shelby pulling the strings, as he will do for them. They're just very well organised defensively, and they don't. Very rarely do they get hammered, but they are in absolutely abysmal form. So
yeah, lost to Tottenham, drew with Cardiff, lost to Chelsea, lost to City, lost to Arsenal, drew with Palace, lost to Leicester yesterday. Yeah. I mean, they're in deep trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, their last 6 fixtures is like just LLLLDL. You know, that's.
Yeah, I mean, if United lose to Newcastle at Old Trafford, you just like erect the gallows in the middle of the pitch and just string Mourinho up at that point. It's like.
Listen, I don't think he should actually be murdered just for being a rubbish football manager.
Well, I don't know. I mean, look, there's nuance in that. Let's have backers, we have a 15-minute piece on whether it's okay to execute José Mourinho. No, we don't. No, we don't. Okay, so look, predictions for any of these games. What do you think is going to happen? Valencia and Newcastle, both at home.
Well, I genuinely think that this, I mean, obviously predicting games is always a bit of a fool's errand, especially it has been in the last few years. But I genuinely think these are some of the harder games to predict because actually the players do have some professional pride in them somewhere. And the Champions League, I mean, remember in the Moyes season, the players just sort of took matters into their own hands in the Champions League and got themselves all the way to the quarterfinals. I mean, maybe there were more serial winners in that squad than there are in this one, to be fair. But I wouldn't be surprised if they are sort of fundamentally decent against Valencia. But and this is not fence sitting, it's just the truth. I also wouldn't be surprised at all if they were absolutely abysmal. So I have no idea how to call it. So I'm just going to say both games it'll be a 1-1 draw and a 0-0 draw. Yeah,
I think that's pretty fair predictions. What do you actually think the team will be against Valencia?
Oh my goodness, what a great question. So I think that he will probably, on balance, select David De Gea in goal over Lee Grant.
Well, that's a good one. Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah,
David De Gea. Although unless he's fallen out with him by then, which is not impossible the way things are going. There's no reason Shaw shouldn't be left back.
Right back's the tricky one. And what system is he going to stick with 3 at the back? I mean, praised McTominay so much after the West Ham game.
But he didn't praise McTominay. He used McTominay's name in place of his own. Like, that's all he's doing. Whenever he says McTominay, just think in his head he's saying Mourinho. Mourinho was brilliant, but there was not much he could do about this game. You know, that's what he's basically saying. I think he will go back to a back 4 because we're at home. I think he'll play... He might even go Smalling and Jones, maybe something left field like that. Right back, I guess if Valencia was injured, then it'll be Young. But if it was who knows? And I don't think there's any chance Dalot plays in this game. I think Fred will be back in the side. I guess he'll play Pogba again. Fellaini. So Fellaini, Fred, Pogba. Then and Romelu Lukaku and some of his mates up front. No idea who's going to play up front.
Yeah, I know. I don't. I normally have a good sense, but I just don't know. It's Mourinho's in that kind of mood where it could be anything. I mean, he could be playing Jones at left wing, right?
The only thing we know for sure is that it won't be Tahith Chong or Angel Gomez in the side.
No. All right. Yeah, it's pretty depressing, this, isn't it?
I mean, it's just standard, isn't it? It's just standard post-Fergie United. The club so desperately needs, the structure of the club so desperately needs a really competent manager in charge. Obviously, Mourinho...
Competent manager, competent director of football, competent scouting department, competent general manager or CEO.
But the point is, what I'm saying is, because none of those other things are there, the thing they need most desperately is a really functional manager. Like a manager who is prepared to kind of be positive and work within the constraints and not spend all his time thinking about how the constraints are ruining his life and, all these...
Yeah, no, I think that's right. So, I fully agree with you there, and I think that's one of the huge benefits of making the change.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of questions which I didn't read out about who that could be. Right. And it's a really hard one because, of course, there are some people available. Zidane's available, apparently wants the job. I have no idea. He's never had to do this. He had a very talented Real Madrid squad and he managed to get the most out of them in European football. This is a completely different challenge altogether. And to say there are doubts about a 3-time European Cup winner, World Cup winner and one of the greatest players ever to play... is kind of odd, isn't it? But there are, because it would still be a risk.
And their league form, United are probably not going to win the Champions League if Zidane rocks up. Zidane is not going to have Bale and Ronaldo to just smash through everyone that they come across.
That's right. So Conte's available, although he brings his own problems. Yeah. I know. I'm not sure we'd be getting attacking football out of Conte. Although I think he was in his first season at Chelsea. I think he was unfairly derided as being negative. He certainly got more negative.
I mean, he's also just such a. I mean, that will just go toxic really badly. There's no way Conte's going to put. We saw how the situation at Chelsea just destroyed Conte's ability to cope. There's no way he's going to be able to. Zidane was at one of the things that he has got going for him. He was at Real Madrid, which is of course an insanely run club. So that he was there for quite a long time for a Real Madrid manager. And I don't mean in the sense of he didn't get sacked, but he didn't leave either. I mean, he did eventually after they won the third of his Champions Leagues, but still. I mean, obviously, I would love Zidane because he's Zidane and he's my favourite non-United player ever, and actually, I don't think it's mad. It wouldn't be a mad appointment. I think it would be quite a sane appointment for the current situation because he's clearly a manager who can coalesce a group of kind of fractured egos and stuff. It's just whether United have the levels of talent in the squad to do anything under him, and I sort of suspect they do. I don't know.
Mid-season raid for Poch, who certainly can work within all the constraints, although Spurs, of course, aren't really making a huge case for Poch right now. Managed to win yesterday, having had many problems this season.
I mean, I think there's definitely a case for Pochettino because obviously it's not going brilliantly at the beginning of this season, but I think that the particular challenge he's facing right now would be very different from coming in and revitalising United and getting them to believe in themselves. I mean, if there's a manager in the Premier League who's got more of a bigger percentage more than the sum of their parts than Pochettino in the last few years, then I can't think who it is. So, I certainly wouldn't be disappointed if Pochettino came in. And maybe he's kind of gettable in a way that he wasn't previously. So that's I think it's got to be a definite possibility. Although I can't really see Pochettino skipping out on Spurs mid-season. That would seem weird given the way the last few years have been.
No, I can't imagine Spurs would want that, or the manager. Anyway, let's leave it there on that piece of upbeat prediction, speculation, whatever. It's been a bad week. It might get worse, I suspect. And we'll see what the tone of the pod is next week. So Valencia, then Newcastle, then there's the international break. And that could be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. But we'll be back to talk about Valencia and Newcastle next week. In the meantime, stay tuned if you're a Patreon backer. Otherwise, we'll see you then.
See you then.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Rankcast. Sorry it was super depressing. As always, we're brought to you by the people who choose to crowdfund us at patreon.com/rankcast. And if you want to back us at $5 a month plus VAT every month, then you'll be rewarded with a piece of bonus content every week. This week we spent half an hour going through the last 10 years worth of winners of United's Youth Team Awards.
The other player to win an award that year, the reserve team player of the year, was Cameron. Don't give a Borthwick Jackson.
Does he not?
The greatest thing he's ever. No, he doesn't. He doesn't. It's well known now.
CBJ Ultras are dead, are they? There's no more CBJ Ultras.
No. What he doesn't give a about are riots.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Amazing. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
West Ham fans trying to topple the United bus, trying to set off explosions and throw rocks. And he's like, yeah, I've got Insta on.
I'm fine. I'm chilled. He was so good in that season. Like, defensively a little bit suspect, but his delivery was so good. If Van Gaal was still the manager, CBJ would be playing every week at this point.
Yeah. At the moment, on Firewall Unfriendly Scunthorpe United on loan. Has he actually played yet? Doesn't look like
No, I
it.
don't believe he's played at Scunthorpe yet.
Maybe he's got an injury.
He was at Leeds. Didn't really play at Leeds much last season, which is good in a way, because who wants our players to be tarnished by an association with Leeds?
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.